Yep.
First time we were here. Don't blow. I already did.
Yeah, okay. I'm Greg McKeel. I'm the general manager of the Paducah Chiefs. We brought the Chiefs in 2016. This will be our 6th year. We bring in college baseball players for the summer. They play at their schools that they're at, and then they come here and play in the summer. It's June, July. We just happen to have some schedules there that Greg Cannon's going to hand out while I'm speaking to you. But our attendance at the games, we're averaging 500 people per game. And our season runs 21 home games this year, and that's usually about the same. When you think about 2 months, and we have to be finished up by the end of July because these guys have got to get home because most of them hadn't been home since school stopped, and get some, I guess, rest and relaxation to go back to school in the fall. So it's been a tremendous success for the area, not only for Paducah, for McCracken County and Western Kentucky. So we're real proud of it. We've got right now we've got 32 players that are coming from all over the southeastern United States, some of them as far away as Iowa and Nebraska for this year. So anyway, we're real proud of it, and we would like to have you all consider coming out to games. I know you guys do a good job of helping finance what we're doing out there, and it's a big help when you start looking at all the things that that we have to do there to keep the stadium up and keep the players come back to us and the coaches sending their players. While I'm up here, I'm going to put a plug in here right now. All these players, when they come in, they stay with host families, and that's a big part of what we do. These host families are people that open their homes and take in these young men for 2 months, and it's really interesting because what you find out is it's not a stranger in my home. It becomes an extended party family. These young men, my wife and I have taken players in since 2016, and most of them I'm still in contact with today. They contact at least once a month. We hear from them. So it's really interesting to follow them and see what they end up doing, and a lot of them come back and visit when they're coming through this area. So if any of you would like to open your homes to some of the players and bring those in, that would be a big help for us also, not only the money but the areas that we can affect our players by putting them in homes that they will have a good experience and success. So anyway, with all that being said, I know y'all have got plenty to do, so we'll let you go with that, and thank you very much for your contribution to making Brooks Stadium and the Paducah Chiefs what they are today.
Well, I'm glad to help. Yeah. Anybody got anything? Do you want this? Doc, come on.
We got to get a picture made, Doc.
All right. Got $7,500 there to go toward, we know you'll use it well.
1, 2, 3. Good. 1, 2, 3. Good. One more. 1, 2, 3. That's great. Thank you.
So tell me what it costs to rent that party deck out there.
You'll have to talk to Greg and
$1,000.
Is that all you
Yeah,
do?
that's all it is.
Well, I've been out there several times. I've never rented the place, but I've been out there with other groups and things, and that's a
Celebrity bartender.
that is a market.
I mean, if somebody wants to have a party or a get together or something on a beautiful evening and out there, and I mean that field, gosh, it's just outstanding. So for $1,000, come out there and have something different. It's not like you're going down to a club or something. It's special.
We haven't had any complaints that I know of.
Wait a minute,
Everybody's had.
did I say 1,000? I meant I don't know if I was misunderstood. No, I'm kidding.
We're sold out.
He's kidding. He's kidding.
Yeah,
Still 1,000, but only tonight. Only for sign up tonight.
Sold out this year.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Yes, sir. Thank
See,
you.
Doc? See it right there, right?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's just like Christmas. Let's see, then we've got the College Scholarship Fund. Here comes Dr. Reese. Man, what'd you bring?
Honorable Judge, I brought in the spirit of March Madness, I brought everything. I brought the height, I brought the depth, and I brought the point guard who'll be right behind me. It is always a pleasure to come before this distinguished group, Judge and Commissioners, to talk about the Community Scholarship Partnership Program. I want to introduce Lee Emmons, as many of you know, is our VP of Advancement, Executive Director of the Paducah Junior College Foundation. Dylan Howard, CSP, and proud graduate, now teaches at Paducah Middle School. Dr. Lisa Stevenson, who heads up our K-12 efforts, and Justin Hill, who serves as one of our Success Enforcer coaches, Scouts. So you'll be hearing from them, and then we'll see what questions you have. Lee?
Thank you. First and foremost, we want to say thank you. This Community Scholarship Program, which allows all high school graduates in McCracken County, from any high school in McCracken County, public or private or homeschool, to attend West Kentucky Community and Technical College tuition free as long as you've met certain basic requirements throughout high school. So it is a wonderful program promoting education and adding to our local workforce by helping people get training here and staying in our community. So it's really fitting that we get to come tonight when the Scouts are here, and when you get to 8th grade, or some of you may be in 8th grade or beyond, you will get to hear from wonderful staff people at West Kentucky Community and Technical College about this program and the opportunities that it can provide for you. A really neat thing about the program, as you all know, and as I always like to reinforce, is that it's a public-private partnership. So your contribution and that of the city goes a long way in not only the very tangible aspect of it, but encouraging private investment. The corporate donors and individual donors we have who fund the program along with the city and county governments. So thank you so much for your support this year and always. I promised Dr. Reese I wouldn't talk too long. He thinks that I have trouble cutting it off when I need to. I don't know why he would think that.
We'll start giving you narcotic signals.
Yeah, I don't know baseball signals. I don't know. But I do want you to hear from Dylan. But did you have a question?
Well, I just remember 3 years ago we went out there. You made the point that only one other county in the state can offer what is offered in McCracken County, and it's 2 years of free college. Is
Yes.
that still?
There may be there are a couple of programs, Hopkinsville and Madisonville.
And Jefferson as well.
And well, now there's a big new program in
they're
Louisville.
following
that-
on.
It is it's a big program from several different entities that started somewhat modeling after ours. But Madisonville and Hopkinsville both have similar programs. Neither are as big or as inclusive as ours. So ours really is a standalone in the state, but there are a couple other programs, and there are more throughout the country actually modeling after ours.
Yeah. One more point I thought was interesting is if you got to live in McCracken County. This is a McCracken County benefit. You don't get it if you live in Graves County. You get it if you live in McCracken County.
Absolutely right. And we do get questions about that from Graves County, Ballard, Marshall, and we are able to say it is not only private donor supported, it is supported by our local governments, and that's why it is exclusive to McCracken County.
Well, I won't ask anybody else. I think it's the best economic development we do. So
Thank you. We certainly appreciate your all's support, and we could fill the courtroom with current students and graduates. About 2,000 students now have come through the program since 2014. But we settled on one star of the program, Mr. Dylan Howard. Dr. Stevenson, did you want to say anything first, quickly about a couple other things, and then we'll turn it over to Dylan for a moment.
I will just mention that the Chamber now has the initiative of West Kentucky Launch, which brings all 8th graders to an event to learn more about the careers that they can seek in McCracken County and the education that they may need for those careers. And with that event, it's a heavily technical focused event. And so last week, Justin and I helped with that event as the college has a heavy presence at that event. But we were able to see 3 of our CSP alumni at that event who are working in McCracken County, a female welder. She's our first female welding graduate, and then another young man who works for Ingram Barge now. And then, of course, Dylan came with his 8th graders from Paducah Middle. But then I'm going to also add that in the last few months, I've been dealing with my parents in some health situations. And one day we had 4 stops for doctor's appointments, blood work, etc. And at all 4 of those stops, there was a graduate, either medical records or actually a nurse's aide. So the range is there, and so we could go on and on. So it's more than paper, it's more than a data point. There are stories behind all of those numbers. So Dylan, it is time to tell your story.
I'm gonna lift this up just a little bit. Tall guy. All right, hello, Judge and other commissioners. My name is Dylan Howard, and I'd first like to thank Dr. Reese and the WKCTC for inviting me to this. So, as you know, my name is Dylan Howard. I am a former WKCTC graduate and recipient of the West Kentucky Community Scholarship Program. I am 23 years old and have lived in Paducah for most of my life. I have lived in a single-parent household for most of my life as well, and financial strain was very common for my family. High school was also a struggle for me, and college was definitely not my top priority. Compared to my classmates who were ready to move out on their own, already knew what school they were going to be attending and what they wanted to be, I had very little information about the college process. I knew I wanted to go, but I had no idea what I wanted to be or where to start. As an alumni of Paducah Tillman High School, I had the opportunity to begin making my vague college dreams a reality. With the help of Miss Lisa Stevenson and Mr. Justin Hill, I was able to begin planning my future. During my senior year, Miss Lisa would visit my class to help us put together a vision after high school graduation. I was in between believing I was not capable of going to college and aspiring for more in my life. When asked what I wanted to be, I could not come up with a solid answer. I told Miss Lisa about 7 different paths that I was interested in, from going to college on a football scholarship, which I was not good at, to being a mortician, to joining the military. Her face showed interest, but I could tell she was thinking, this guy needs a little assistance. As a Paducah native and Tillman graduate, WKCTC's Community Scholarship Program gave me the opportunity to attend school without the crippling debt that comes with college. I had doubts at first, but after orientation and a few summer classes, I knew this is where I needed to be. After 1 semester as a graphic design major, I finally found my passion for teaching and switched to an education major. Today, I'm proud to say I graduated from WKCTC with a 3.5 GPA and continued my studies at Murray State University. WKCTC's 2-step college program provided a smooth transition to Murray State, where I felt prepared to take on anything. After graduating from Murray State in 2020, I found myself giving back to the same community that supported me. This is my 2nd year as a middle school teacher, working right down the road at Paducah Middle School, seeing myself in many of my students. And I'm yet to determine if that is a good thing or a bad thing. The Community Scholarship Program has given me opportunities that I never dreamed could be my reality. From finding success in college to having very little student loan debt, all I can say is this program works, and I cannot thank this college enough for helping me become who I am today. Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
How'd you learn to speak so well, so eloquently, and
Well, WKCTC has an awesome intro to public speaking course. So just a little.
outstanding? I mean,
And now we need to buy his breakfast. Yes. We didn't even buy him breakfast today.
great. So what are you going to do now?
Lesson plan when I get home and get ready for the rest of the week. I'd also like to pop in at Paducah Middle School. We are sponsoring a Sneakers for Success event where we will be gifting our successful students and leaders in the classroom with a new pair of sneakers. So right now we are asking for donations or contributions from local businesses and community members. So if you all would like to donate or contribute, please feel free to contact Paducah Middle School, or you can contact me after this.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else, Dan?
Good report.
So Judge, this is a prelude. I'll be presenting at the Chamber for the April 14th breakfast, and we will be showcasing some additional CSB students and certain students in the technical pathways, which we know has been an ongoing concern from the county and the city.
Yeah. Cool. I'm just continually impressed, and I don't, we've got a lot of assets in McCracken County that people don't fully appreciate, any number of assets, and the college is certainly among, if not the top one, I think. And like you said, this program of free tuition to McCracken County residents is just an outstanding program. I went to PCC when I went to school there. I felt like I got a really great education there. Went on to get a law degree. Went on to attended Murray State at graduate level. Some of the top schools in the nation and various things. George Mason, Northwestern, but you can get what you need right out here. And the parents that don't take advantage of that, of course they can do that if they wish, but people think you got to go to a top recognized school to get a good education. I've got initials for that thought. I won't say, but it's bull. You can stay right here in the community. A young person can get well grounded in academics, and if they want to go on further, they can certainly do that. But and of course, by virtue of my position here, I'm on the board of the PJC Foundation Board, and so stay abreast of all that. So outstanding education out there at no cost. And now that even can supposed to not ask a question you don't know the answer to as a lawyer, but I'm going to go out on a limb. So let's say one of these guys' parents says, let's put you out there for a semester or a year or whatever. Is there an obligation that they stay for a certain period of time? Can they come out there and complete a semester or a year, and then if they decide it wasn't for them?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so they're not locked in to
They're not locked in.
2 years.
They do need to come immediately after high school. You can't go away somewhere else and then come back and benefit from it. But as long as they come directly from high school, the tuition can be paid for that first semester or up to the full 2 years.
Yeah, that's great.
Better give them some money. That's what they're all waiting on.
Now, y'all want to hear me talk some more.
We're waiting patiently. Look, I can make you a sign to.
Let's go out there.
Coming out here.
Let's go out
here.
Yeah, we got too many people.
Too many of us.
Judge, we're going to need to go because
Okay.
we are supporting a local business and we'd hate to disappoint them.
Oh,
We have
okay.
bigger reservations.
All right.
Hi, y'all.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yay.
Thank you very much.
That was them to know. Yeah, we'll put this.
Sir, I'm gonna try to even y'all out.
Okay, you do whatever.
Can I put you down here with this one, sir?
Better switch out. I knew you because you're tall.
We're just trying to kind of,
Yeah, get in
right in
there.
there is perfect. That looks great. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you so much. All right. Whoa, you're here, sir. I hooked your mic.
Trip over to every track.
All right, friends, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Good. 3. Good. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can we get a picture with you guys?
I'll try not to trip.
While you guys are standing there, can we get a picture of you guys?
You need to take your sign or you're not keeping I got a picture with the boy, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go this way so we see how we can get in here.
Nice. Good.
Okay, come on, guys.
Oh, that's
Thank you, gentlemen. Ian, do you want a picture? I think. Okay.
Come on, y'all. Pay attention for me. Big smiles.
Thank you so much. I saw you the other day at the high school. Play. Yeah, that was really good. Oh, okay. Maybe just wanted to go.
Like one of the cops.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. I know. He just wanted to go. He knew some. It was good.
Commissioner Jones, I gotta watch you.
It's fun.
There you go.
All right.
Up to the coroner's reports.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. I see. All right, so next thing we have on the discussion agenda is a request from the quilt show for a amount of $25,000 to apply toward their advertising for the upcoming quilt show. As I understand it, the city has agreed to 25. The CVB is at what? 50 are they? CVB is 50,000. State, some state agency is providing 25, processing 25, and they're asking for 25,000 from the county. I met the grandson of the Schroeders is now he and the let's see, what is it? I think the husband of one of the granddaughters of the Schroeders, the grandson and the husband of the granddaughter, now managing the quilt show. They've been very successful. I asked for some information, some data on their finances, and presented with some. It's for discussion. my position on all of these things really is pretty consistent, that we want to give a hand up where it's needed, but we need to show that it's needed. And that at some point in the enterprise, they will get their own legs, they'll get their own wings, whatever you want to call it. They'll start to, they can function without any kind of government assistance. And at that point, I think we need to be still supportive, but not by providing money necessarily. And so put it on here because of that request. I do feel like I feel some level of use obligation, but some level of persuasion, in that the 3 other entities, CDB giving twice what we would give, and then the state and the city giving the same amount. Perhaps we should step forward. I will see, and perhaps you gentlemen disagree. We'll see. I do think that this quilt show, obviously, I don't think anybody would debate that it's not extremely valuable for our community. It brings a lot of tourism, a lot of revenue into the community. Sort of a hallmark of McCracken County, the quilt show, Quilt City, that sort of thing. But my action would probably be in the future that it's time for them to fly on their own. So that's just some thoughts on where you guys are. Anything? Nope.
Well, I guess I am interested in the history of the contributions in the past and where they come from. It seems like I've read somewhere that the CVB historically gave more than $50. I guess I'm trying to discern, is this just a switching of buckets from theirs to ours?
I don't have that. Do you have any of that information, Steve? You know?
I don't have it perfectly, but yes, there's.
Come up here.
I'm not saying it's a bad expense. I'm just trying to figure out why theirs is going down at the same time ours is going up.
I don't know the answer to that, but yes, at times they bore a great or the entire share, when sort of for a great number of years there was no local contribution to the show itself, and at some point, maybe 10 years ago, it started with a little bit from the city, a little bit from the county, and a little bit from the CVB, and then the state and the tourism cabinet. They have this thing called a matching funds program. They get that money from transient room taxes as well, and they would put that back into communities. Then the state stopped doing that statewide for a number of years, and the CVB sort of went up at that point, and at some point the city and county dropped off, and the CVB was shouldering that entire burden.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not a bad expense. I don't know if it's good either. I haven't done diligence on it, and I guess it's been something that has been shouldered by the city CVBs and hadn't been in the boundaries of what we're supposed to analyze. It feels like we're the wrong bucket of money to be asking for that type of expense. So I guess we don't have to vote. It just was on the agenda for talking.
Well, what's the date of the quilt show?
Last week of April.
April 24th, 30th.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something we have to vote on. I don't know if we need to gather some more information, put it together. We didn't put any of that information about the finances in here, did we? If you want to look at the numbers some more, that sort of thing, we put that together and make a decision later, or
I'd like to see it, and we make a decision at our next meeting.
It feels like something that the transient room tax should fund. The whole purpose behind the transient room tax is that they're going to collect that from hotels and use that money to create tourism. Doesn't feel like a property tax expense to me, which is what we would be taking it out of. It feels like, and we don't control the transient room tax, or at least the spending of it. The two CVBs do that, so that's why I say it feels like the wrong bucket.
okay. Anything?
I guess my question would be, I'd have to see the finances of why they need help to pay for the advertising. And number two, who are they going to advertise to? Because hotels are full anyway. And they have about a capacity crowd of what they can handle. So what's the target audience of spending over $125,000 on advertising? I mean, again, I'm glad the quote show's here, and it has really been a signature event for our community, but I agree with Commissioner Jones. I'm not sure it's expense that we need to take out of our general fund. There's a lot of different shows and things that happen in town that we aren't asked for money for, and I'd have to see finances of why they need more money, and if they're operating at a loss, then we could consider something maybe, but I think we'd have to see more information before we could really make a positive decision on it.
Okay. Well, we get the figures together and get them out to you maybe in the next few days or so. Then we got on here for the Floral Hall renovation update. Stevie, you gonna cover that, or looks, Steve's been overseeing the project. I don't think I told you I was going to call on you, but you're good at flying by the seat of your pants. So what we got going on? Where are we?
The project's going along well, probably for the last 3 weeks. We've had some folks from the jail that have been helping us, and they've been very helpful. First thing we did was clean out the facility, and that just doesn't mean cleaning every wall and all the floors, but it's pulling nails, everything from the walls and the floors. After that, there's been 2 coats of paint put on every wall. If you remember, it was yellow at one time, and the front doors and the stage and everything was green. All those colors are gone now. I5 Design, Chad helped us with a color palette, which we followed. So the painting is primarily done. We'll be finishing up the bathrooms tomorrow and Wednesday, and finishing up the wainscoting also on Wednesday. I'm not sure if you know, we took the roofing off barn number 5 and used that from the wainscoting, so there's probably 330 feet of wainscoting that has been installed at Floral Hall. And also we used the old lumber from Bluegrass Downs and put that on the back of the stage as a backdrop for the stage, so kind of having that barn theme play through. It's going well. Probably Thursday or so we will be getting paint for the floors. We're going to be painting the floor, probably 2 coats. That should be finishing up next week, and at that point we'll come back with finishing touches as far as fixtures and things like that. Possibly new lighting also.
Cool.
Thank you, Steve.
And so we've had Kyle Henderson help us with the union. We've had plans to use union electricians, carpenters, and plumbers. They're providing that out of their union halls for free labor, which is much appreciated. And we're just buying the equipment, water heater, what I think even Kyle said he thought had maybe the pipe and supplies that we could use, but the bathrooms didn't have any hot water. Put a water heater in there. The light fixtures need attention, but the thing is, what we needed to do was to preserve the character of the place as a 1880s or thereabouts built building for stock sales, and so preserve it as a and that that heritage, that history, but at the same time make it fresh and nice, and so that people would want to rent it, and so I think we're accomplishing that. Did we need to? We had before a $10,000 budget. We're at like we decided we need to add another like 5,000 to that to cover. Is that on for a decision tonight?
No, sir. Someone just need to make a motion.
I'll make that motion so we can.
Okay. So motion is to add a maximum another 5,000, making the total budget for the renovation 10,500. And I mean 15,000. And so I think we would likely come in under that. I know there's been talk about $15,000 to get the amount of work that we've got done. Of course, we also been using inmate labor, which is free, and teach those guys to paint, to have skills that will help them when they come out, that sort of thing. That when you talk about pulling nails and staples and stuff, wasn't there was a lot of nails and staples in there.
Over the years, yes.
So,
Excuse me, sir, did we have a second?
Oh.
Second.
Yeah, for a second.
Let me, is that going to be enough money? I mean, do we need to give you a little bit in case something else comes up that you need another couple thousand so we don't have a play? I mean,
what?
Do you feel pretty confident you do it 5?
I am, but if I think 5 would do it.
I just would hate we need another few hundred to come up short and have to wait.
Yeah. It just, I mean, what we have, and I think
the electric
there are
and
other
lighting,
things that could be done.
Yeah, the electric and the lighting is something we just don't know yet because we haven't had an electrician come out, and there was the thought of
that's true.
The exposed lighting that goes down 150 feet on both sides of the barn. There's no globe on it. It's just a bulb hanging. That if we did something there, that could come out a little bit more.
I agree with Commissioner Bartleman. I mean, I think I've said before, the path of mediocrity gets in the way of the path of excellence, and we won't be at this point again. You're here.
I mean, should we do up to another 10,000? I mean, I know you're not going to spend it, but just in case you need it, or
yeah, I mean that would help.
I know you won't waste it, but I mean, again, I just hate for you to get in there and find something needs to be done that's going to take it over that, then not be able to do it until we have another meeting.
Yeah.
Is someone making a motion to amend the motion?
I'll amend it to 10,000.
Making the total 20.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. Yeah,
so we're amending it to add another up to 10,000.
Right. Yeah.
Again, we know you're not going to waste the money with all the labor you've got out there.
Thank you.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, that carries.
Was that the vote on the amendment, or is that the vote on the?
That was the vote on the amendment, which would kind of do away with the other one because you changed it.
So now we need to vote on the motion.
To amend. Okay.
That's great.
So motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have to approve the amendment first, then we approve the amended version of 10,000.
Okay. So we got that done.
Okay.
So we've done that.
Yeah. All right.
And sir, the coroner requested that you pass her right at 4 o'clock. She was called out on a death call.
Oh, okay.
On the Graves County line, so she said she'd be running late. Please just skip her and call her later.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see. And then we got Bruce Wilcox here for GPED. Oh, Bruce.
Good evening, Judge, Commissioners, Deputy Judge Executive Doolittle. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you this evening. Looking back through my notes, I think it was mid-November when I was here last time. So I know we've met a few times in closed or executive sessions since then, but this will be my first update since November, so kind of cover a broad range of things. Over the past 4 months, we've continued to work our pipeline of projects. We've had 2 on-site visits from prospective companies since I mentioned it to you the last time. One of these site visits was a project that we've been working on December of 2019. We've done several Zoom presentations and meetings with them over the past 2+ years, but February's on-site visit represented the first time company personnel were actually here in Paducah. The other site visit that we had resulted from a timely turnaround of an RFI, a request for information, that we had gotten. So we filled out the request for information, and literally within 2 weeks, the site selectors were here on site. Both of those site visits went very well, and we received very favorable feedback from our presentations, from our sites that we showed them, and from our community partners. So both of these projects are in the heavy industrial manufacturing area, and we are still strong candidates for their projects. We've not been eliminated from either one of those projects, and we anticipate them to keep moving forward. Last November, I reported that we had 4 hot projects representing 3,250 jobs and approximately $5 billion in capital investment. 3 of these projects are still in play. Approximately half of the pool and over half of the jobs was in one of those projects, and that project has taken a different direction. It was a very large project. The prospective company had a contract with an OEM, an original equipment manufacturer. The OEM company decided that they wanted the final assembly of the project on their site, which changed the whole supply chain issue of where the items were going to be made. So changed the geography requirements, and as such, they had to look at other locations.
What's the sector of that?
It's a green project. Batteries. Batteries they're really, really hot right now, most everywhere. So, but we still have an open dialogue with the company, and they're in hopes of securing some other contracts, and we're top of their list for those projects if something else was to come up. We are seeing a consistent theme in all our projects. Macroeconomic issues and geopolitical issues are having a significant impact on projects and project decision timelines. From a macroeconomic standpoint, supply chain issues, particularly in the supplying of electric transformers, is giving pause to project management. Historically, you could order a transformer today and have it delivered a year from now, and you know what the price is going to be today, what you're going to pay for it a year from now. Now you order a transformer and it takes 18 to 36 months, and you pay whatever the price is when it crosses your dock. So that extended lead time has given these heavy consumers of electricity pause in evaluating their projects. Extended lead times, accessibility to other raw materials, increased material cost, and very high energy cost are causing these project teams to reevaluate their projects. As of today, none of our projects, not a one of them, have canceled because of these things that I'm talking about, but it has given them pause and causing them to reevaluate their projections and operating models, and delaying and or making them consider constructing their projects over an extended period of time or delaying it into phases. One of the larger projects that we've been working on, they have seen an increase of upwards of 60% in their construction costs. So that, coupled with the high energy costs that we're seeing, again, you can see why it's giving them pause to reevaluate things. It's kind of like a two-edged sword. The increased construction cost, it's a barrier up front, but if it's long-term, it's also a great opportunity for these heavy industrial manufacturers to have some sizable business going forward. From a geopolitical standpoint, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has given pause, but it's also exemplified that we need to be more domestically independent, both from an energy standpoint and from a raw material standpoint. It's probably no surprise to any of us here this evening about the significant role that Russia plays in supplying gas and uranium or nuclear fuel. But it's known that a large portion of the DRI, that's a component that goes into the steel making process, is sourced in the Baltic Sea, which, not to do a geography lesson, but a portion of Russia touches the Baltic Sea. So you can imagine the supply chain issues and things that can present within itself. But again, all in all, it's presented to us again the need to be more domestically sufficient. Many of us have heard over the past couple of years, certainly with COVID and the supply chain issues coming from it, there's a significant need to reshore production. Without doubt there is. Most larger companies, though, operate on a 3 to 5 year planning model. What we're seeing is that companies are choosing not to abandon their assets in China or in these Eastern companies, but what they're looking to do is to augment them or diversify them into North America, whether it might be into Mexico or even into the United States. So that, over the long haul, we're hearing should head off production issues like what we've seen over the past couple of years. So that being said, we're still diligently working all of our projects with the anticipated increased cost. These 3 projects that remain, they represent amongst themselves almost $5 billion in capital investment now, with the increased cost that they've incurred and about 850 jobs. We continue to work these new projects, and albeit our inflow to our pipeline has slowed somewhat due to all of these uncertainties, we still have a very healthy pipeline of projects. During this past February, I had an opportunity to attend Next Move Group's Economic Development Symposium in New Orleans. Got to meet with other fellow economic developers and leaders and site selectors. The site selector was of most interest to me in that they shared their thoughts on reshoring, just as what I shared with you, and the uncertainty in the market. And they noted that while the management teams are being extremely diligent in trying to reevaluate and extrapolate their projections on what's going on, their diligence, as they do this, they are asking or demanding, requiring information be supplied much more faster, quicker than what it has been in the past. They expect more information, and they expect it faster than any time they have before. But above all, the thing that I consistently heard throughout all of them is you've got to be ready. You've got to have inventory. You've got to have your site. Your site needs to be ready, and that's what we're continuing to do. So we're continuing to develop our triple rail site, harvest the tender. We're in the closing phases on wrapping that up and doing things to continue to be ready for when one of these projects lands. I also had the opportunity in March 1st particularly, to do a presentation to Governor Beshear and his staff and the Cabinet for Economic Development. The governor had counties all across the state come present their top site and the additional estimated investment that it would require for their sites to be site ready or to be able to better market the site. The governor allotted $250 million in this site development fund in his budget.
$250 million?
$250 million. Last I heard, the Senate and the House's version, they had $100 million in there. So I'm not sure where it will land, but needless to say, it was a great opportunity for us to get in front of the governor, his staff, and the cabinet and showcase our triple rail site. So I've got some other project updates that I can share with you in closed session if you'd like for me to stay, but be happy to entertain any questions or comments that you might have now.
We don't do closed session, we just move on.
but I watched your presentation at Rotary not long ago, so you're at 32 jobs to get since you've taken over?
Yes, direct.
Direct jobs?
Yep. You add the indirect, it's quite a bit more.
It's about another 235 indirect and about $125 million worth of investments.
Yes, and block will end up being another 50 on top of that, so about 175 million in capital investment. Recurring economic impact of about 65 million a year.
Yeah. I wanted you, for your work, you stay on top of these things, and you're as transparent as you can with us. And thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
If we boil that all down, what I take from it, I guess, is that what you're saying, we're still top contenders in numerous projects that would present job numbers in the thousands. And these are heavy manufacturing, high salary jobs. The problem is that the economy, with inflation, the cost of building, cost of materials, all that, these companies are pausing the decision on whether they can and should invest in another location.
Or even do their project. We had one of the projects, we were on the very, very short list. It had been narrowed down to a very small number. I think you know which one I'm talking about. Their construction cost came in significantly higher. They had the engineering firm go back and reevaluate the design to see if they could do it cheaper and all. Even with that, they're still coming in about 60% higher than what they had estimated. So again, it's a challenge, it's a hurdle right now, but long term, it presents opportunity for them.
Well, I've been in all those presentations and met with those company officials, the people you're talking about, as you know, over multi-day periods. I don't know what else we could do. I mean, I think that the county has done everything we could possibly do to try to move into a top position, and we're there at the very top. You said a very small number. It's a very small number. But I just don't know, and I don't think that you know of anything else that we can do, attempting to purchase the land, make it site ready, development ready. That takes money, and I just hope the public can understand the economics of where we are, and that I don't believe any county community that's working hard to acquire these positions, these projects. We are got this outstanding team. Presentations, I've seen on anything, the professionalism, the information, everything that's those presentations have really been awed by what all they've heard from energy to workforce, land, revenue, incentives, everything. We've got the whole package, and we put it out there. And then along comes the economy, and just is where it is. And but our best hope is that I guess that the economy will turn around, or they will find a way to build their project. And if they do, I think we stand an excellent chance of acquiring it. So.
I do. I mean, one of the things that I always ask when we do our presentations is, where do we stand? What can we do different? How did we do? And to your point, we've gotten excellent feedback on all of our presentations. The team that we've put forth, to with these companies and these site selectors. So in every instance, they said, you guys as a local community, you've done everything that you can do at this point to for the project. You know, some of the projects, quite honestly, they've got to decide what they want to do. Some of them have 2, 3, 4 different prices. So again, depending upon how the market goes, they decide how much and when they want to do that. So, you know, some preliminary incentive packages, and you know, they've been robust, but at this point, they're still trying to figure out on their end what it is exactly to do.
It sounds like the governor has
yeah. So what that is our triple rail sector. You know, it's one of 3 sites in the Midwest that has rail like north, south, east, and west. There aren't that many sites, much less one that has what we have. So their product development initiative realized there's a shortage of quality economic land.
There must be something that holds it back. I mean, after looking at it, I know that when we first took office, there was a company that didn't come because of the cost of energy. And if you told Rotary that no longer is a problem, everybody that you presented to has been happy on the cost of energy.
Yeah. So you know, let's just call it what it is. Big Rivers Electric. You know, we had allegedly we had issues with them or Jackson Purchase in years past. I can't speak to that. You know, again, what I can speak to is I know in the 2+ years I've been there, our relationship with them has been nothing but first class. And, you know, I'd also add, keep in mind, they're the same ones who landed Nucor in Brandenburg.
Right.
So it can't, you know.
So we've got energy check mark.
We feel good about energy. From a gas standpoint, our site's direct served by Texas Gas East and Panhandle from the west. We could put a massive amount of gas load in there as well.
Check that. I guess what I'm leading up to is, all right, it sounds like the state is going to have at least $100 million to improve and make sites more build ready, more better. What would do we stand in line? And if we do, what do we do to that site? What's our ask? And are we ready to make that ask?
So we have some good information on that. I share with you, you know, in closed session. But okay. We've had an open dialogue. You know, one of the challenges is the road and access to the site. We feel really good about where we are with that. There's an access road that comes off of 358. That's the first phase of that, and then there's a 4-lane permanent connector road that goes to that. That's $30+ million. Those monies would come out of the transportation cabinet. So we feel really good about where we're sitting on that. The other challenge is approximately $2 million for sewers. We've been working with John Hodges and Joint Sewer. So the plan is to build the sewer line right up to the southern point of the railroad tracks that come through there.
And he's getting that done, so we'll have that checked.
John's working on that as we speak. So, and the reason we don't go under is we don't know if we land a 200 or a 2,000 employer. So you don't know how big a pipe to put in. So we're doing everything we can to tee it up and move quickly when the time's right.
Thank
you. Are there grant opportunities in this infrastructure bill that the federal government passed? I'm on a committee with NACO, and we had a Zoom meeting last week, and there's, I don't know how many billions of dollars in that fund. Some of it's designated for airports, and the purpose of the fund, as I understand, is to help places like us that are close to being build ready. Have you, or as the state, you know, are they looking at those possibilities?
Absolutely. As one of our last presentations that we had one of our community partners present who's been a part to writing grant applications, and for the life of me now, I can't remember all of the acronyms that go along with all
They
of the
call it
different.
bill. It's bipartisan infrastructure legislation. They call it bill grants.
Yeah, then there's a RAISE grant. There's grants associated with rail companies. There's maritime grants. There's PIDP. There's
and
all
it's often the COVID money that they put in. A lot of it.
Or infrastructure. Yeah, but that's actually part of our strategy when we do some things. So, and I can share more with you about that later.
Cool. Anything else?
Good. All right.
All right,
Thank you.
Bruce. Appreciate it. We'll see if we can wrap this other stuff up fairly quickly and go run some more in executive session shortly. Specifics. Let's see. Where are we here? Grant updates. There was a request for some information about where we are on any possible grants, just in general for any projects, I guess. Who's gonna handle that? Is that you, Steve?
Probably Steve and I together.
Okay. All right. Oh, you need to take it down. We've been going, we've been going an hour and a half. Let's take 10 minutes real quick. And,
So do we, I believe we need a motion to adjourn for 10 minutes.
Okay, motion for recess
Do we need
for
one?
10 minutes.
Second. We've just never done this. Motion for recess, yes.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. We're in recess. call back. Got Steve Doolittle.
I did wash my hands, but I knew that
What you got for us, Stevie?
I'm here to answer questions.
Okay.
Have a presentation.
All right. Did somebody have? Jack, you mind if we start?
Well, let's start with Commissioner Bartleman asked a specific question about several grants, and a big chunk of those DLG advertised grants have something attached to them called a national objective. I couldn't begin to tell you what all the national objectives are. There's 5 of them.
There's 3 main ones. It's removal of slum blight, community activity that's urgent, and I believe that is low and moderate income.
Right, so serving low and moderate income. So if you look at the history of CDBGs, whether they were approved at the city or county level for the last 30 years, the overwhelming majority of them were on the basis of low and moderate income. So for that reason, that's why we, the county, we haven't done a housing CDBG. I think we did one. I think John Telbert did one in the early 1990s. That was a for-profit company that did that and did a relatively small CDBG. So of those in that list, there were 3 in the housing category. And it's just something McCracken County hasn't done. One of the reasons is they're extremely labor intensive, and they have large matches required. I don't think the county's ever shown any interest. In CDBG, the county has done a number of community projects. So I think Easter Seals, Family Service Society, Lotus in the last 2 years. But when they come forward, they provide the match. They usually write the grant, and all we have to do is process it for them, more or less. We don't really go out and shake the bushes looking for those. Usually nonprofits, like those ones I mentioned, come forward and say, we have a building project, like Lotus was, like Easter Seals was, like Family Service was, and we want some assistance with a CDBG. Will you sponsor that for us? So we've done those, but we haven't self-initiated any of those projects. SURF is another one in CDBG that Commissioner Bartleman mentioned. That's a disaster recovery grant. We haven't had a disaster that we needed those funds for. That think Mayfield, Marshall County, they got those SURF things. And then Land and Water Conservation Grant. We've had a number of those. We have an application in right now that tracks back to last year. The state hasn't made any decision on last year's grants because the federal government hasn't funded it yet. They have another grant cycle, I think, coming due in May, but prior years has not been funded yet. So we have an application hanging out there for that one, and that one's sort of related to rec trails. We've applied for, but I don't think we've ever been awarded a rec trails grant. Maybe the city has here, but I don't think the county has. Raise. Of course, in the last meeting you agreed to do a raise grant with the cabinet, with transportation cabinet for Friendship Road, but the cabinet's going to do the heaviest of lifting on that. They're going to provide the written narrative for us. They're providing all the costs associated with that grant as well, but we're going to do the actual application for them because there was in the RAISE grant, if it's local government sponsored, meaning it runs through our grants.gov account, they get a few extra point in the grading rubric, so that might help us all get that. And you did agree to put a little bit of money in that, so that one probably helps as well. We have another outstanding CDBG that we were awarded. If you remember, it was the utility grant. The state pushed out a bunch of money across the Commonwealth for people that were delinquent on utility due to the COVID crisis. For a variety of reasons, that hasn't gone well. Not here, statewide issue. Utilities found other sources to pay for it. It sounds like the latest we're hearing from DLG, and Steve talked to them more recently than Pam and I have, that we're probably going to be giving that grant back just because we can't find enough recipients for that. They used other COVID resources to help the utility companies get whole with delinquent payers. Anything else, Steve, that I'm leaving off?
No, I think those are the main ones. Of course, we have the ARPA, which they're familiar with.
Any question?
I guess my question is, I think there's a lot of grant. I was in a training session last year where I think it was, I don't remember which grant it was, but there was a community that got money for an outdoor pavilion type project. I think it was up to 250, then you match it with 250 or more if it's more than that. I mean, I wonder if something like that can be available to replace the barn we tore down. We were talking about doing some type of a meeting pavilion out there, and I wonder if we could use that. There's a lot of different Delta Regional Authority grants. They're in the process now of taking grant applications. There's a lot of federal money that's available. The infrastructure bill, again, I was in a NACO committee where we had a meeting about that. There's, I don't know how many billions of dollars available for those type of grants to do roads and airports and all kinds of projects. And I just wonder, how much research do you do to keep up with grants, or do we not really have the staffing that's able to take the time to research those and prepare?
We receive a lot of those same notifications and attend some of those same training sessions. Like I said, anything that's CDBG based that DLG pushes out, haven't done a lot of those. We have not pursued anything vis-a-vis raise either, or build. We have not done those because we have not had projects for those. There's sort of a chicken and egg problem also, with grants. It's what are you trying to get done? You don't find a grant and then figure out a way to apply for something. You usually have a list of projects, things you're trying to accomplish. You find out if there's a grant that can service that need. I have not seen a type of grant, if you could remember which one you saw, where a community got money to build a pavilion. I have not. I have not seen that type of thing. And so sometimes I have seen those things, but their source has been CDBG, and CDBG you either have to be in a qualifying census district or your clientele come from a certain low income range. It's very difficult for us to prove and track in a Carson Park situation that the recipients will be of low and moderate income folks. We did see that in all of the other CDBGs that we did with Lotus, Easter Seals, Family Service Society. That's how those were qualified. Were on the basis of the clientele. Carson Park works a little bit differently. Land and Water Conservation Grant Fund, remember that one comes tied with a permanent conservation easement. So once you put a dollar on your property for that, you're forever tied to that use, which where we applied on the landfill site seemed to make pretty good sense. We're not we're going to have that for a very long time. So we do have to sort of be careful where you decide to put that money down. And that is a $250,000 max project. Not max grant, match project, and it's a 50-50 grant, so it would be 125.
Some of those you can match with in-kind labor and in-kind too, but I mean, other communities are getting grants all the time for different types of projects, and there's a lot of opportunities out there with the Delta Regional Authority, and
we
a lot of these
have not looked hard at Delta Regional Authority.
And a lot of these other federal grants are available, and I just hope we're being aggressive and look at those and not just say, no, we're not going to qualify for it without really taking a good deep dive to. I think all of us would like to see us take advantage of some. There's a lot of private grants for different things, and anyway, I just hope we can really be aggressive in trying to find grants, because that's money that really benefits the community, and grants are available for projects that really help people. So I hope we could. Again, there's a lot of money available since the pandemic that the federal government's put together in the infrastructure bill, and a lot of pandemic money that's available for different things. And I just hope we can be aggressive and search for some of those, and maybe get a periodic report of what you looked at and what didn't work out and what might work out. Thank you.
Anything else? Nope. All right. Thank you. Then we got a topic of airport bonds. Is that you, Steve?
Yep. So at your next meeting on the 11th, we will have a reimbursement resolution for the airport, because we likely will expend some funds on the airport prior to the actual borrowing occurring. Have that one timed for early this summer.
How much will that be?
Well, depends on how much assistance you get from the legislature. Last I heard, maybe there's $3 million still in play for the project. I don't know. We know exactly yet.
So next meeting, we're going to discuss how we come up with either the $3 million, or if the legislature listened to the governor and gave us the 6th, we might not have to do that.
Right.
Or somewhere in between.
We'll probably know something by Wednesday or Thursday, because that's when the legislature has to complete their work for override veto. So
tried to stretch this out as long as we could. They have issued some contracts. If you've been out there is some construction occurring at this point. In April, we will have first of our bills to pay from our share, and it stretches out over a period of 9 or 10 months expected.
So we'll hold the money. We won't give it all to the airport at one time.
No, we're just going to respond to invoices.
Gotcha.
Okay. Also, the airport has filed for another grant for the terminal. Again, it's part of this federal infrastructure for I think it's $5.8 million for another grant that they hope they can get for the terminal. They don't know what restrictions or what it could be used for, but it could help pay some of the shortfall and maybe other expenses they have, but that's another grant opportunity they're working on.
So we had what were sort of topical were for this year was we did the refunding on the Murray State project. We completed that. We got terrific interest rate off that. Of course, the airport is in our face at this point. So in the next 90 to 120 days, we will be in the market for some borrowed money, unknown exactly how much, and how much that is will really depend on what we do. If it's the full $3 million, I think you're looking at a 20-year borrow period for an asset that lasts that long. If for some reason we do well in the budget and we get some funds and we get our part down, and maybe we're looking at more of a bank qualified 10-year kind of note, something that's more manageable, that we won't go to the bond markets. We will do what we've done on small projects before and just go to local banks on that type of money. So I think that one remains a little bit to be seen. We do in the future have, 911 is going to be hanging out there. That one's probably a number of months off yet before what is decided, how that solution is going to come into place, and how that will be funded. And then, of course, our sports park. So what's envisioned for now is the first $25 million of the project. We likely will not have any borrowed funds from the county. And the initial plan would be that until we expend that 25 million down, that somewhere after the design period and 18 months into construction would be the final borrowing to finish off the final amount when you know what the exact amount is going to be. Today we believe that number is $16-17 million, somewhere in that range, and that would be a joint obligation of the city and county. Ideally, we should try to get the city to do that borrowing because they have better they can get a better interest rate than we can on municipal bonds. So whether or not we will have a borrowing in it in terms of we'll be handing a note off to somebody to help pay it, but all that hasn't been negotiated with the city yet. So it remains. I'm not sure how that one's going to play out exactly. The reason I'm saying that borrowing is out maybe a year and a half or more at this point is because we do have a deadline on ARPA. We're 2 years from that deadline, so we've got to have that money obligated and spent down in that amount of time. So it's not like we can hang on to that one, do a borrowing first, and push that one out 2 or 3 years from now.
I think one of the issues we're facing is kind of relates to what Bruce was talking about. The way the economy is right now, the interest rates are really going up, and Fed indicates they may increase it every month for the rest of 2022, and there's speculations they may take it up 0.5% at their next meeting, and then 0.25% the rest of the year, and that affects the interest rates we have to pay. And
it does.
Unfortunately, we're going to be hitting the bond market for our big bond at perhaps a bad time. I don't know if it'll calm down in a year and a half. Or I was really concerned earlier when we had some discussion that if we had to do the bond issue by the end of the year, the big one for the sports complex, that we may want to talk about doing it early while the interest rates are low. But I think you're right. If it's 18 months away, we'll just have to kind of hold our breath and hope it goes back down. And I hope they can get a 911 solution soon so we know how much we're going to need for that. And again, because a 0.25% or 0.5% can really increase the cost of something, the annual payments on it. So.
And carrying that over 20 years.
Yeah. Right now, the 20-year bonds, I think, are somewhere around.
I was looking at it last week, between 2.25% and 2.5%.
Yeah.
Now, in the context of the last 50 years, that's still fantastic rates compared to what we saw 30 years ago. We've been in an extremely long period of very low bond rates for local government.
Thank you.
Correct.
I think it's important for us to understand too that same decision that Bruce is talking about on these projects that are looking at coming here. Their costs are increasing, as is everybody's. I filled my county car up today, and it was very expensive, let's just say. Everything is expensive right now. And so, and as he said, these projects are looking at, they want free land and they want it developed. That all costs money. We're trying to run this county on a budget that we've created, and now things are more expensive than they were when we created our budget. We did have the very good sense the responsibility of creating some revenue that hadn't been done in this county for over a decade. Deficit spending, spending more money than we took in from revenue, so that our savings went from somewhere in the range of $9 million 8-9 years ago to down to around 700,000 is what my recollection was. Spent $8 million of our savings in an 8 or 9 year period until we were down, had 2 months of operating expenses, and so we took responsibility. We didn't want to do it, but we created some revenue. What if we hadn't done that now? We wouldn't be able to be doing these projects. We wouldn't have given the Sheriff's Department the bump that we needed to keep good, qualified Sheriff's Department personnel from going elsewhere. You know, I can't run a house on what I made 20 years ago. Few people can. Things get more expensive. You got to be responsible, and I think that we were. And if we hadn't been, if we hadn't taken that action, there would be no need to be talking about providing free land, providing developed land for these projects. They would have just come in and said, "You won't give us the free land. You won't develop it. See you." Any number of people confirm that. It's as clear as it can be. So,
you're right, Judge. The only way we couldn't have called ourselves conservatives if we hadn't taken that action, because that was the only conservative thing to do. The next thing to do was start spending the credit card, which is not consistent with conservative fiscal policy. So I echo your comments.
all right, that gets us to this matter about the county attorney salary that we've tabled for a couple of meetings now. Is there a motion to remove it from the table, or do we want to remove it from the table and
Just leave it there.
do what?
Leave it there.
I'd like to move it to our April 25th meeting.
Okay.
If that would be okay with
So that's
the rest of the court. That'll be after our
2
budget
meetings.
workshop.
Yeah, I don't care whether it remains on the table or not. I mean, if I'm understanding the motion or the order, I guess it's a motion, Sam. If we just simply don't vote on it, the salary, which by the way, I think it's been reported, it's a little confusing. It's been reported that our county attorney's salary is $56,000 or $52,000. That's only the part we pay for the services that you give us.
That's right.
So it's basically our retainer to get you to do our bidding.
Right.
Okay. So if we don't take action on this, then the salary stays the same, right?
That's correct.
So.
So it sounds like, unless there's a motion to remove it from the table, it'd be, I mean, the other option, I guess, is to remove it and do away with it.
Well, I mean, I'm prepared to vote on it.
We have a motion on the floor now, but no second. Commissioner Parker has moved to continue it on the table until the April 25th meeting.
Oh, okay.
Which would be the meeting after our budget workshop.
To second on that, or no?
I made the motion. I can't second it too.
Well, I thought she said he made the motion.
No, I made the motion.
Commissioner Parker.
I'll make the motion, I guess. I'll second.
I'll second it.
And I don't have any objection to it. I'm ready to vote. I don't think there's any mystery to this to me. And while I'm content that the salary should stay the same, so I would vote no on this order. But that didn't, that leaves the county attorney making a pretty good salary, in my view, about $137,000. So I would vote no on it. But I don't care if we table it.
All right. So, any other discussion? All in favor of tabling it till, what did you say?
April 25th.
April 25th?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those no. All right, that carries. At court orders, Madam Clerk.
It is ordered that the bid of Guardian RFID for the RFID scanning system for the McCracken County Jail is accepted and awarded. Said bid was in the amount of $58,667.60 plus installation and annual maintenance.
So made.
Second.
How much is annual maintenance estimated at?
I'm currently still negotiating with them right now, but it's $17,000 a year.
Come up. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Said I'm still currently negotiating with them over that annual maintenance right now, but they've asked for $16,999 a year. I think I could get it less than that. It's software licenses, basically.
$16,000 something for maintenance on a $60,000. Well, that's six. Do we know what installation is?
Is it as far as what the breakdown it was?
I mean, it's the total. This
The total of $58,000 includes the installation.
Now this says plus installation.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it says 58 plus installation.
No, sir, I'm not ready to do a contract on it at this point anyway, so.
You what?
I'm not ready to do a contract on it at this point. So,
Let's not vote on it then.
We'll table it.
Yeah,
You got time to negotiate on it.
Yes.
So. Okay. Is there a motion to table it now?
There is a motion on the floor, sir, that would need to be withdrawn.
I'll withdraw my motion.
We can.
Now there can be a motion to table this order.
Okay. Is there a motion to table it?
Sure. I'll motion to.
All right. A second.
Second.
Any discussion on the table? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, we'll table that. It's ordered to, oh, I'm sorry. Madam Clerk.
It is ordered that the judge executive is authorized to execute the combined public communications addendum B for another 48-month term, which agreement includes a technology grant.
So made.
Second.
Discussion.
What is this?
Who got the information on that? Is that Steve? You?
I believe that would be the jailer.
Oh. This combined public communications addendum B, is that related to the A?
No,
or is that something completely different?
the addendum, this is just extending the current contract for 4 years.
What is that, though?
It's our telephone system for inmates. Does visitation, email, telephones.
Yeah, there's a thing in the package.
The only change is it's extending it for 48 months.
Correct.
We make money off this, right?
Yes.
So we get half?
Yes.
Make a lot of
Yeah, about 250,000 a year or so.
Well, the other terms are the same, it just extends it.
Correct.
This is not considered commissary account money, or is it?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Get those checks.
And any other discussion? Did we got the motion in the second, right? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ordinance.
It is hereby ordered that pursuant to KRS Chapter 67, the first reading of ordinance number 2022-01 should be conducted in the summary format as follows. An ordinance amending McCracken County Ordinance number 2021-05 by making revisions to the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 operating budget by modifications in receipts from bond proceeds, insurance proceeds, real estate, dredging, and deed transfer in strict compliance with the mandates of Kentucky Revised Statutes, Chapter 68. Summary. The present ordinance makes revisions to Ordinance 2021-05, McCracken County proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 operating budget pertaining to a modification in receipts from bond proceeds, insurance proceeds, real estate, dredging, and deed transfer. Certification. It is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of and contents of ordinance number 2022-01. Public inspection. Ordinance number 2022-01 shall be available for public inspection in its whole and complete form in the McCracken County Judge Executive's office during ordinary business hours.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just, are there any areas where we're spending more money?
What precipitated this entirely was based off the transient room tax fund. We underestimated how much we were going to collect, and since it's passed through to all the buckets, we've already exceeded those, and it creates a problem with a quarterly filing to DLG. We can't send them an out of balance financial statement, so we're fixing it primarily for that reason.
That and the bond proceeds?
That and the bond proceeds, yeah. So we had the bond sale where we put money on our books. We got $5.7 million, but for a blink of the eye, because the proceed came in, we paid off a note, and we restarted the payments on a lower amount. So that's what's driving these changes, so that we can file a report with DLG that balances. My personal druthers would be to do one cleanup at the end of the year in June to settle everything, but we're picking this up at this time just so we can file our quarterlies.
All right, so the items and the numbers in B, are we increasing?
You have to balance.
They have to balance. So the top is revenue, the bottom is expenses. So, and you can trace them out, exactly what we borrowed or took in bond proceeds we spent out either to pay off the old debt, and then it included some cost efficient. There's a legal fee in there, and there's a financial advisor fee in there. And then we did the same for things that are found in the transient room tax. And then we had a handful of things that were going on in the sheriff's department, mostly with vehicle repair, stuff like that. So we said let's correct a few of those at this point and shove some money around to cover those things.
So there's $25,000 in deputy salaries. Am I voting to give anyone a raise?
No.
Okay.
Wouldn't do that with a document like this.
And I certainly don't even be insulting. I truly am asking because I don't know the answer.
So we got miscellaneous income in from a deputy that went to another agency, but there's that agreement where if we pay for the training, they owe us that money, just like we've had to pay other agencies for that.
Right.
So that agency paid us that money, and so I'm moving it to deputy salary because we had the opposite where we pay an agency, so that's offsetting that line item so that it's not taking all of that money out.
So that's agency to agency. All right. What about the contingent appropriations? That's going up by $377,000.
Yeah, if you look above, we collected a few things more than we had estimated at budget time. So we're just dumping those into contingent. We don't have a particular place to put them. You know, in the operations budget, we need a few dollars to pay for airport invoices until we do our actual borrowing. Probably that out to when that happens.
Well, and the contingent can't be spent without the three of us
Cannot.
Right, so that's,
And then we had some tech or some insurance proceeds from accidents in the sheriff's department that were shoving money back into those funds from insurance proceeds.
in general, while it's hard to look at this document and know it's good news, it sounds like it's generally good news.
It's not bad news.
We saved money on the bond.
We saved money on the bond.
And the rest of the line
yes.
passed through from the transient room tax, right?
Yeah, and the good news part is the hotel industry recovered more robustly than we projected a year ago at this time when we were putting the budget together. We hate to overestimate the transient room tax fund because other people rely on us to make decisions too, and what we think is going to happen with that fund. So we're probably a little bit conservative, but everything's been difficult with many of our revenues just because of COVID. So.
All right, I'll be done in just a minute. So I see the three big amounts where we gave money. We increased what we're giving to the conventions, city CVB, the sports tourism, and the convention center.
And the escrow account, yep.
So where, I'm assuming that everything in A has a consequence for everything in B?
Equally, yep.
All right, where is the number in A that corresponds to those three numbers? Is that the 639?
Prior year surplus, yeah.
Okay, so prior year surplus is basic. That's not prior year surplus of occupational tax or anything else. That's prior year surplus of transient room tax.
Just in our transient room tax fund. Pam had a couple different ways we could have done this. This was the most expedient because the state doesn't allow us to amend our budget on a projection. I mean, ideally, we would look at what we're getting in transit room tax. We'd make a projection out to the end of the year. We're allowed to do that once a year when we do our new budget. When we're correcting our budget, they only let us take in revenues we've actually accumulated. So what's in prior year surplus is largely the accumulation of dollars we use for bond payments out of the fund.
Okay.
So Pam made a projection of exactly what we need between now and July 1st, and then the rest we just dumped in as surplus.
Okay. Well, I can't promise you I'll get any better with budget amendments. They seem to challenge.
But that 639, you'll see it's in 78. And if you go below in B, and if you add up the 78s in those funds, those will all equal. Same with the stuff in Fund 99, which is a debt fund. Those will all balance out exactly. The 18s, that's Sheriff's Department, those will balance as well as the 01, the general fund ones.
All right. Thank you.
So this obviously, I mean, you probably never admit we had good news about finance.
I would never confess to that.
I've known you a long time. I know you would never admit that. The contingency appropriation, that's our general fund is $377,000 more than we estimated at budget time. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to add to our contingency.
Right. And then the transient room tax is 630-some thousand higher than what we estimated. Is that correct?
Not exactly. That's more of an accounting issue. Pam, did we look at exactly what the number needed to be? We were a couple 100,000, 250,000. That's a little bit more, but this is going to reset on July 1 again anyway, because it's just the exact dollars that go into 18 into 78 are the ones that come exactly out.
How many months behind are we behind as far as transit room tax report?
2. So dollars that are collected in the hotel in July, they have to remit to us in August, and then we spread out in September. So there's a 2-month lag always.
Gotcha.
And how much will we save in bond payment by doing the refunding the bond issue? Roughly how much are we saving?
The life of over the life of it, it was a couple of $100,000. We have a policy of if it doesn't save 5%, it's not worth doing. And so it was greater than 5%.
It's a small amount every year, but it really.
Yeah, and that one had two partners, the city of Paducah and Murray State. So we were about half of that bond. They were the other 2/4 of it. And so that savings got spread among the three of us.
$5,000 a year, maybe.
No, it was more than that. It more than paid for itself because you can actually see what our cost of issuance was on that one. Our cost of issuance was $65,000. That was legal and financial advisor, and so even considering the cost of issuance, we still save money.
Thank you.
All good?
Yep. Good vote.
As good as we can be.
All right. No other discussion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Seth, do you have something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one point of clarification, not on that issue, but it looks like our next thing is to adjourn into executive session. So about salaries, specifically the county attorney salary, commissioner salary, and the coroner salary. There are 3 positions that we get to look at, have to look at by statutory duty once every 4 years. And this is that season. And while I said I'm not in favor of raising the county attorney salary, I'm not in favor of raising the commissioner salary, and I'm not in favor of raising the coroner salary. So none of those positions would I vote a raise for. And I didn't want it to look like I was just picking on the county attorney, I'm picking on everybody. So.
All right. So, the next thing up is for an executive session. We need a motion to go into executive session to consider pending litigation as permitted by KRS 618101C, and then with Bruce on a specific proposal by a business entity where discussion of the subject matter would jeopardize the location, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business entity as permitted by KRS 618101G.
Well, mate.
A second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Then we're not going to have any action to take afterwards to make a motion to adjourn following the motion. Second on that?
Yep.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. So we'll go into executive session. We're going to move down to